Check test 1, 2. Hey, I made a music video. Let's talk about it.
I wanna make eye contact with you. I wanna make eye contact with you. 'Cause you're a hell of a view.
So if you haven't seen the full music video for Eye Contact yet, I would start there. I don't think the themes are subtle or anything, but I do feel like there's good follow-up questions to ponder. I also always think it's interesting to talk about the production of a song and which instruments and effects were used to produce different sounds. So the first half of this video is going to have kind of like a video essay vibe, and then the second half will be more of a technical production breakdown. I didn't really feel like there was enough content to make a full video about either, so you're getting them in one. Yay! My goal with Eye Contact was to spark conversations about the relationship between influencers and consumers. Content creators can't know everyone in their audience on a personal level, so outside of some anecdotal interactions, the connection between creator and consumer is almost entirely one-sided. That kind of bond creates something called a parasocial relationship. Now, parasocial relationships existed way before the internet. The term was coined in 1956. Around this time in history, about 50% of US households had a TV, and more people were buying them every day. People weren't just being exposed to celebrities in movie theaters anymore. They would regularly see the same actors, actresses, TV hosts, and advertisements on a daily or weekly basis. Becoming temporarily infatuated with an actress because you saw her in a movie is a totally different thing from bonding with somebody you saw every week when their show came on. Repeated exposure to the same person creates familiarity and comfort. It's why celebrities of every generation make great spokespeople for advertising. People implicitly trust them. Of course, if you're thinking this sounds a lot like today's influencer marketing, you're exactly right. TV is still doing the whole celebrity advertising thing, but social media is enabling everyday people to grow a following and sell to that following. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, music, photography, Lego building, whatever, you can start from nothing and build a business out of it. Now, to keep this simple, let's just take an ethical stance and say that there's nothing inherently wrong with cultivating an online fan base. By hitting that follow button, consumers are consenting to your influence and committing to a parasocial relationship. I'm sure there's room for debate on this, but if you ask me, that's kind of just how the internet works. Where this gets weird is when you stop to ask where the line is between creator and consumer. There are plenty of people who model professionally or semi-professionally and use, say, Instagram as a portfolio. But if an ordinary person is feeling hot, there's nothing to stop us from posting a thirst trap. Anyone can be a model for a day without committing to that identity. We're all competing for each other's attention. And some of us have done a better job following trends or have banging bodies or just got lucky with hashtags and along the way have found themselves with a bunch of random people watching them. You can apply this to anyone who's only half committed to using their personal platform to market their creative endeavors, myself included. Shit, you don't even need that many followers. I have 784 at the time writing this, and I don't know 306 of them. If you're online long enough, you're gonna run into this. If you skew more consumer with a hobby, your hobby is gonna exist along content of you living your everyday life. If you skew more influencer with a fan base, you're still expected to present authentically and give viewers a glimpse into your day. So this is the world we live in. Here are some questions to ponder. How does it feel to see strangers following you? Do you like the attention, or is it creepy? How would you feel if you knew the person on the other side looked like this? What if this person was more attractive, or less attractive, or the opposite gender? What if they're not a person, just a bot account trying to pass as real by following real people? Does their attention still have value? And take whatever stance you want, I just think the questions are interesting. You might love the attention, and that's cool. On the other hand, maybe you're getting weird DMs from strangers asking you to be their sugar baby. Yes, this lady did probably just want my bank info, but I was flattered anyways. Like I said before, by following you, people are consenting to your influence. But do you want to consent to influencing them? On the flip side, it's super easy to get seduced by somebody's post and wind up behaving way creepier than you'd like to admit. How often do you find yourself staring at the profile of a total stranger or a friend of a friend? How far back in their profile can you go before it starts to feel like you're stalking them? Do you feel like you're getting away with something, or is it totally fine because they posted it and chose to leave it up? Is it one of the unspoken rules of the internet that this kind of thing just kind of happens and it's not weird? Ultimately, what value does this content provide? Is it a momentary distraction because anything would be better than getting out of bed in the morning? Do you want to consent to this person's influence? So the music video features our model Allie walking through the Lamberton Conservatory. There's a ton of content online that's kind of become a digital stand-in for an in-person experience. Watching commentary videos can feel like you're spending time with a friend, Mukbangs replace family dinners, porn replaces sex. The stroll through the Lamberton is the digital version of spending time with Allie, whatever that means for you. And none of these pieces of content can replace the experience of doing something in person, but maybe they're half as good and we don't have to get off the couch to access them. But there's a disconnect here. Allie doesn't know Jake at all, and Jake only knows Allie as a young woman he's seeing on a screen. Traditionally, making eye contact with somebody forms a moment of connection, a moment of intimacy. You feel seen, and it's incredibly comforting. It's why content like this works so well to begin with. It's why me talking to the camera works so well, and why this angle feels so out of place. When you make eye contact with Allie in this video, she's not seeing you. She's looking into the lens of the camera, and you're watching this in her future. Your experience watching this is just as one-sided as Jake's is. I will say, on a broader note, I don't think parasocial relationships are inherently bad. Jake is an incredible photographer, and I was into his pictures for months on Instagram before I ever DM'd him to go shooting together. And then Allie and I first connected over Instagram after a mutual friend put out a casting call for me for this music video. The stranger danger scare of the 2000s is over. You'll probably meet tons of people online who don't want to kidnap you. I mean, I do. I want to kidnap you. And again, even if digital content is only half as fulfilling as the real thing, sometimes you can't have the real thing. We probably aren't going to stop creating and consuming just because studies show our relationships with our phones are unhealthy. So we have to be aware of these kinds of interactions and relationships and figure out a way to make sense of them. Anyways, that's the manifesto. If you're not interested in production details, feel free to end the video here. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Alright, now that those fucking casuals are out of here. First up, guitar part is pretty simple. I'm running my PRS direct into an interface. All of the sound processing is happening in Ableton. The amp is from Native Instruments' Guitar Rig 5. It's a very minor edit of the clean single citrus preset. To keep the guitar interesting, because we hear it a lot, this effect called beat repeat is adding stutters. At the beginning of the song, before the vocals come in, I wanted that shitty phone speaker sound, so the guitar's been EQ'd with a low pass and a high pass filter, which is a fancy technical way of saying that a bunch of the high and low frequencies have been cut out. I also wanted this intro to sound a little bit more live. When you go to a concert, you hear sound coming out the speakers, you also hear a reflection of the sound coming from the back wall a couple milliseconds later. So it sounds different than it would in a studio. To replicate that sound reflection, there's an effect chain I used. It's another Ableton preset called Buck Jones. Adds a little bit of slapback delay and reverb. The vocals start pretty dry. I'm using Melodyne to nudge the pitches into place. Then I have some standard EQ, compression, and saturation to help the melody stand out against the rest of the mix. A little bit of reverb for taste, nothing crazy, just don't want it to sound like I'm 2 inches from your ears. In the first chorus, I use some of my signature sauce, which is Harmony Engine. This is a plugin that takes your voice and splits it up into harmonies. I like to leave the retune speed as short as possible for that kind of auto-tuned robot choir sort of sound. And in this case, the plugin's taking MIDI notes that I played in on a keyboard and using that to control the pitch. There's 4 voices of harmony in the chorus, then 1 bass voice in the second verse, and then a full 4 voices again in the second chorus. The second chorus also features a counter melody that sounds like auto-tune, but isn't. To get this effect, I'm using Melodyne to straighten out the pitches manually and then drop the formants down about 500 cents, which creates this artificially deep vocal. The counter melody isn't meant to be too intrusive, just kind of floats around the main melody, so it's nice and soaked in reverb and delay. During the section after the second chorus, there's a choir that I opted to layer in 1 track at a time instead of using Harmony Engine. And then we're going to call this a descant. I took the vocal line from the choruses and used auto pan, phasing, and delay to make it sound super modulated. Yeah, I'm just going to admit it. I didn't know what to do for this section, so I just kind of started dragging and dropping and copy pasting until something cool happened. If an experienced producer tries to tell you that they've never pulled this bullshit before, they're lying. Now there's 2 synthesizer sounds in this song. Both of them came right out of the Moog Mother 32. The bass is a nice fat square wave, fairly standard Moog kind of sound that I love. It took me way too many times to get the rhythm of the filter right, but I wanted to record it by hand, the way the Pilgrims used to. To give it a little bit more breathing room, the bass in the second verse has a slightly slower attack speed than the chorus basses, which hit right away. The other synth is way up high, probably that exact same square wave, just in a different octave. This time I played the notes in on a keyboard so I'd be able to bend the pitch. This instrument also kind of belongs on the outside of the mix, so there's plenty of delay added in Ableton. The kick, snare, hi-hat, and crashes are all from various sample packs. Nothing too crazy going on there, just standard saturation for warmth and a glue compressor to hold the percussion section together. I used a couple transition sweeps from sample packs, and I also pulled a couple right out of the Moog. And then there's this cool section right before the second verse that uses 4 different Foley sounds to create a little transition. And then the master channel is really not that fancy. Limiter to start, saturation for warmth, pull the mids down a skosh, compression preset with a little tweaking, and then Gullfoss, which is a plugin that uses artificial intelligence to EQ the track in real time. Altogether, it sounds like this.
'Cause you're a mystery. Come tell me a history. I wanna fantasize about us in the sunlight for a while.
Thanks for watching. I had a ton of fun making this song and music video. Go tell your friends, share that sucker around. I'll see you next time. I really hope that the oatmeal and the glass of water that I have make it into one of these shots. Not this one, hopefully that one. We'll see.
Got nothing